Hi there, my name is Zari and I'm here to talk to you about welfare dependency amongst Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and how it relates to us as teachers and when it comes to educating the children into the classroom, as it's important to understand all these issues that they may have struggled with. Anyway, let's get started, and I'm going to try and do this all in one take. So, yeah, we know that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people no doubt have encountered a range of issues, both past and present, and these still adversely affect individuals and family today. Just to name a few, these include its history as stolen generation, colonization, government intervention, loss of cultural identity, exposure to drugs and alcohol, assimilation into white society, loss of their homeland, high rates of unemployment, issues with health, violence and abuse, housing, and what we'll be focusing on, welfare dependency. So I'll be going through what welfare dependency means, its prevalence, and we'll be looking at some statistics, the implications, so the cause and consequences of welfare dependency amongst ATSI people, some controversy surrounding it, and strategies that have been in place for improvement, as well as in the teaching area. But firstly, what is welfare? Well, the Google definition I have here, it's a noun, the health and happiness and fortunes of a person or group. Secondly, statutory procedure or social effort designed to promote the basic physical and material well-being of people in need. So, welfare refers to the well-being of individuals, families, and the community. The term welfare and well-being are often used interchangeably. Positive well-being is associated with being comfortable, happy, and healthy. Welfare is often mistaken to just, income payments and support services, but that's not just the case. This is the word alone that we're looking at welfare. It does extend further than receiving income and adequate housing. It's very multifaceted actually, and it also refers to the well-being of individuals and their families. It covers the aspects of life, including being a contributing member of society, to housing, to having a good work-life balance, skills, access to healthcare and education. Now, we've defined welfare, but what exactly is welfare dependency? So this is where an individual or household relies on financial assistance from the government for a prolonged period. There's a lot of negative stigma and controversy surrounding welfare recipients, as those who stay on welfare often set the example that passes on to their children, that is, it's okay not to work and to just rely on the community and government for lifelong help and assistance. That's not what welfare was created for. This is typically a first world problem, and it creates a vicious cycle of welfare dependency and sense of entitlement. And I actually kind of see this at the school I work at. It's a special needs high school, and there is a big percentage of Indigenous students at the school, and most of them have issues, and they need a lot of support. And when you see, most of them don't even have parents; they live in homes. So when you do see their parents, you can kind of tell that they're on welfare, because they come in and they kind of look like a mess, and it's actually kind of really sad. So that was a side note. What is welfare dependency? So welfare dependency is where an individual or household relies on financial assistance from the government for a prolonged period. As you know, welfare was originally designed by the government to help those who are low income and meet their minimum living expenses, and enable people to find employment, typically those who are refugees, disabled, students. I myself was on welfare when I was a full-time student, and it helped me a lot. So it was one less thing to worry about. I still am a student, but now I work as well. Well, I stopped. Job seekers, pensioners, and low-income families. So what was initially a government policy designed to assist those in need has now turned into a societal problem faced by many Australians today, and not limited to Indigenous people, of course, but that's what we'll be focusing on. In saying that, let's move on to the framework, and this is what I mean when it's a multifaceted issue. So this is by the Australian, sorry, I'm having mind blank, the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, and they have, this is where all the statistics are from as well, and all the data. It's very up to date. So yeah, it's a multifaceted issue, and it talks about the detriments of well-being or risk and protective factors, and how it can positively or negatively affect a person's well-being and influence the need for welfare services and support. So you can see that on an individual level, these factors include a person's circumstance, attitudes, behaviors, and how they respond to life events. Some of these services they can access include like employment services to maintain a stable employment, housing, child protective services to assist vulnerable children, family support services, social housing. Let's go back. So as you can see that just because you get income support doesn't mean everything is all good and all your problems are solved. You'll need to there'll be other struggles too that come with it, and we'll be talking more about that when we go through the implications of being on welfare. But let's look at these statistics now. Okay, so we have here, so this is according to Australia's Welfare 2019 Data Insights. So it's a report coined by the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, and this is specifically concerning Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So about 56% of people aged between 15 to 64 received an income support payment in 2016. An estimated of 798,365 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people were in Australia. That represents 3.3% of the total Australian population. So yeah, that's how many were receiving welfare. So this is a slight increase. The proportion of Indigenous Australians aged 15 to 64 receiving an income payments fell from 50% in 2002 to 47% in 2007. But then it increased to 51% in 2016. There's 1 in 5, a group of Indigenous Australians who receive income support payments in 2002 were tracked through the data, and just under 1/5 had left income support by 2016. So that's what income support is for. But you can see that 4 out of 5 stayed on it. And there's about $30.3 billion invested in welfare for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander recipients, and this was in 2012 to 2013. That's 6.1% of total direct general government expenditure, which is quite a bit. Let's move on to the implications. Great, so welfare dependency is a problem not only economically for a country, but has a significant impact on the communities and families. It set up Indigenous youth for failure, enabling them to not be financially independent and not look for employment opportunities, work experience, nor be engaged in their education. I'm not sure about other schools with a big Indigenous population, but at my school, maybe because it's a special needs school also with lots of kids with learning disabilities, the school would set them up to do some work experience, where they can potentially get a job or do TAFE work. And a lot of the times, you send a teacher A, so that's my role. I will go with a student to work experience. I didn't go with an Indigenous student, but I went with another student who had learning difficulties, and you basically have to go there and you got to work with it. And I've been with students who just complain the whole time, saying, "Oh, I don't want to do this. Why do I have to work?" And most of them don't want to learn either. I was pretty grateful that my student was pretty good when he came to work. But yeah, so you do see this. Yeah, it sets them up for failure, and not look for employment opportunities or work experience, nor be engaged in their education, because why do they need to work or learn when they can get money for free from the government, right? So a lack of education leads to a lack of skills, as there is a high demand for skilled workers in a variety of areas, as you know, and this makes it more difficult to find work, and that can lead to a problem of homelessness, substance abuse, and involvement in crime. In addition, studies have shown that those who are on welfare dependent suffer mentally and emotionally as they face stuff like marginalization from the general community. So these could be feelings of exclusion and oppression, reduced well-being, less opportunities and chances, unemployment, maybe teenage parenthood, poor physical and mental health, criminal behavior, and like I said, potential homelessness. So, and yeah, a familial history of income support relates to the adoption of permissive views on welfare dependency, and this can carry on throughout adulthood, and you can see in the list here, students can fail to perform at primary and secondary and enter tertiary education, and and as teachers, you want the best for your students. You want to give them all the opportunities, and you want them to try really hard, and you want them to break that cycle, even though there could be a bunch of stuff going on at home. I also read about this thing called the Human Capability Framework, which I thought was really interesting. So it talks about the transfer of skills from parents to children. So just an example, if you grow up in a home and your parents are college educated, the chances are that the child will be as well. And it's a different kind of advantage, because it's the transfer of skills from parents to children. So an ideal life, of course, would involve being born into a loving family that's stable, educated parents, both whom are reliable and flexible with employment, and living in their own home, which isn't the case with some of these kids. Some of these kids, their family's on welfare, and they'll come to school without food, and all these things going on. And it's something to consider as a teacher, so that we can accommodate them. Anyway, let's move on. So this is a quote by Warren Mundine. And it says, everyone who depends on welfare is living in poverty. Poverty isn't alleviated by giving people money. Poverty is alleviated by people making money, by economic development driven by jobs, education, and innovation. So he's an Aboriginal politician. So what is being done to break the cycle? Well, it was mentioned that welfare was created to help people get off their feet and ultimately find employment and be financially independent. Some have been able to do it through self-determination as they gain more autonomy in their lives. As you know, everyone has the freedom to decide their own priorities and lifestyles. One study spoke about the need for proper autonomy. So here's that quote here. saying that the right way means recognizing that real autonomy will not be achieved until the legal basis of relations between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Australians is resolved. The now abolished Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission was making a similar point over a decade ago, arguing that Australia must make a quantum leap from patronising and condescending welfarism and the dependency and sense of inadequacy it engenders to policy foundation to full recognition of the rights of Indigenous people. So whether that means having more support or taking a step back or forward from policies, and I'm not sure. But yeah, we did talk about the negative stigmas with welfare dependency as well, so you can see why there is a bit of controversy. But yeah, on the other hand, there are also studies that show that there is a shortage of housing and inadequate social care and health that people who are on welfare don't have access to. So that also contributes to the marginalization and reinforces their dependency on welfare. Now let's move on to strategies. So, put myself here. A variety of welfare reform programs were developed to combat this through interventions in order to alleviate welfare dependency. So, specifically intergenerational. This includes having participation requirements for those who are on income support and can work, for those who are working age and do not have a disability. So there are some government initiatives. I mean, like you've heard of Work for the Dole, early educational intervention. You know, we as teachers need to be able to identify when kids are falling behind and get on top of it. Don't just say that, oh, it'll fix itself next year, and then next year that's the same thing that happens, and then next minute they're way behind on their numeracy and literacy because there was no early intervention. Community outreach and support programs. You know, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children can be mentored, and they could go to some youth groups, and that would help them too, because role models play a big role in support and relationships. Access and engagement with education, youth preparation employment programs, scholarships specifically for Indigenous students, and there's also work specific for Indigenous people as well. And that gives incentives for employment. So yeah, let's move on to education support. Put myself here. The Australian Government Department of Education has made it a top priority to close the gap, and they can do this by increasing participation in early childhood education, improving school attendance, improving reading, writing, numeracy, and making sure that students finish school. So see them all the way through. Their vision is that every student succeeding is the shared vision of Queensland state schools. Our vision shapes regional and school planning to ensure every student receives the support needed to belong in the school community, engage purposefully in learning, and experience academic success. So that's Queensland Education Vision Statement. And their focus areas actually include, you can see this on the State School Strategy for 2019 to 2023, where they have a spiel about every student succeeding. So the first one is intentional collaboration, so you know, working and learning together and leveraging different strengths and skills and perspectives to address prioritized challenges. You have successful learners, students engage in learning and achievement and successfully transition from early childhood into schooling, from schooling to further education, training, and employment. So that's our job as teachers, teaching quality. So we need to teach high quality stuff, evidence-based practices, and focus on the success of every single student. Principal and leadership performance is another one. So obviously schools achieve success through an intentional approach to improving the progress of every student. Oh, I read the wrong one. So school leaders drive school improvement and student achievement. So leadership is important to empower your teachers and back them up and support them, provide them with resources. Continually look at school improvement and performance and ways that you can improve. Have regional support, so this focuses on supporting performance and outcomes in early years across the stages of schooling. And local decision making, so just ensuring that the community and the student are central to the decision making process. And you see this a lot in like private schools, like Adventist schools. Parents and caregivers play a big role in their child's life, whereas that might not happen in these kind of families. And it's just for autonomy and accountability, and just to learn from each other, really, so that you can give the best education the student can get. So again, just want to reiterate that a key priority that you'll see in education, the Department of Education, is that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students are afforded the opportunity to achieve success. It's heavily emphasized to support culturally responsive learning for them and young people. And this strategic plan aims to support those living in the most disadvantaged locations, and children who are not proficient in English are more likely to experience developmental vulnerability and reduce the impact. And it's supposed to reduce the impact of disadvantage and vulnerability through targeted intervention. There's a lot of resources available online as well. And this is done by a bunch of accessible Indigenous education programs to support and extend Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. They draw upon the culture and identity of ATSI people, and it's embedded in the program to achieve positive educational outcome for all. So that's all I have for you today. In terms of teaching strategies, it's very important to be inclusive and positive behavioral learning as well, which is a strategy that my school uses. It's actually a really good school for PBL. We get in the public school system in Queensland. we get a lot of visitors, so I'll be in a classroom helping out as a teacher aide, and then we'll have a bunch of like adults in suits and office clothes coming in just to watch what we do. There's like a like system in place where when students do the right thing, they get likes, and there's a like shop, and the like shop is decked out with things anything that a student could need. It could be food, it could be clothes, it could be school supplies, and that's what my school does to help the students, because there are a lot of kids that are struggling at my school. Anyway, here are my references. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching my presentation.